We appreciate you taking the time to speak with us for Inside California Education. I wanted to speak with you a little bit about the budget to start off with. So the Governor Brown's 2018 budget calls for an increase in K-12 funding. Can you tell us a little bit about how much that is compared to last year, and what areas are you seeing enhancements in?
Well, it's an excellent budget for education. I give the governor an A, probably an A plus actually, for really looking at investing in education in a big way. He's made the reforms in education one of his very top priorities. We've worked closely together to implement targeted funding to help youth in poverty, to help youth that are English learners, and to help youth that are in foster care. So it's been good. The increase for the education budget, has gone up from $7,000 per student back in 2011 up to $11,600 per student now in this budget. So that's a tremendous increase. So when I first took office in 2011, we had a terrible recession. 30,000 teachers have been laid off, 20,000 classified. Our schools were facing additional horrific cuts. And we went to the voters, and the voters said yes to invest more money in our schools. And we thank the voters for their wisdom and their support for our public schools. And the money's been well invested. So the good thing about the budget, it continues an investment in career technical education, in bringing back the arts, music and drama, civics, science. So we're seeing a renaissance of our public school system in many respects, and the budget is essential for making it happen.
You quoted a number there. I think it was 11,000 per student is where we're at now. Where does that bring us in terms of per pupil spending, compared to other states in the country?
We're somewhere between 45th in the nation and 40th in the nation in per pupil spending. So a state of our size, our wealth and capacity, I believe we should be investing more. We're grateful that the voters in the last elections passed Prop 55, which continued a major portion of $5-6 billion annually to help our schools meet all the needs. So we just have to keep focused on how to invest and deploy the resources we have now even more efficiently and more brilliantly, but keep in mind that we're needing to catch up to the rest of the nation, that we fell behind over a couple of decades, and we're moving in the right direction now.
Where do we stand on the California's teacher shortage right now, and what's being done about it?
It's a serious challenge. It is a very serious challenge, and we are working on a number of strategies, including helping pay for students' costs to go to the teacher training programs. We're looking at residency programs. There's money, in fact, in this year's budget to have programs where teachers work like an apprentice in a hospital or a trade. We had, just a few years ago, 35 to 40,000 teachers in the credentialing program, and now we only have about 15,000. So we're very short of the 20,000 we need per year going forward. And we really need more young people to be connected to a wonderful profession that's so rewarding and is so important for the future of our society, our families, and for our economy.
So we have this teacher shortage, and then within that teacher shortage, there's a shortage of bilingual teachers.
Yes.
We did a story down in Fresno where they're actually recruiting to Mexico to bring back bilingual teachers. So what does that mean for bilingual education, especially after the passage of Proposition 58?
We have shortages in several areas, and I want to come right back to your question about bilingual education teachers. But it's also a shortage for special education teachers, science and math teachers, and career technical education teachers. The bilingual need is enormous. Now, we need to have more efforts to actually train teachers, and we have a program currently. It's called the Binational Bilingual Program, and we want to expand that program. I've pledged to work to double that program. It brings about 150 teachers from Mexico and Spain and California together, and we train them to be effective bilingual teachers.
Tell me a little bit about some work that you have ongoing with Mexico and the education community there.
Well, we've been very fortunate to have a strong, positive working relationship. I say, debemos construir puentes, no muros. Let's build bridges rather than walls. And so what we've said too is we should, learn each other's culture and languages and work together. And so I've met with the Secretary of Mexico's education system, Secretario Nuño, and we've looked at how can we help students on both sides of the border learn their languages proficiently and contribute and work with each other. We recently met in Tijuana with the Secretary of the State of Baja, and they too, we've pledged to work together to increase recruitment of teachers, to be bilingual teachers, and to serve on both sides of the border.
We recently visited a school, some of the schools in Sonoma that burned down from the horrible wildfires that were there. And we kind of did a story about how schools can prepare for disasters. And so it's not just fires, we also had mudslides down south. But with all of these disasters, is this a new normal for California? And what should schools be doing about it? Is there something at the statewide level that schools should be thinking about?
We hope it's not a new normal, but I'm thinking it's going to be more frequent, and we need to prepare even more fully. What we did learn as we struggled to open schools again, we had about 600 schools closed in the Sonoma-Napa fires. About 350,000 students were out of school. We learned more on how we can communicate, more about what lists we should have, databases we should have access to make sure we can reach all the families in an area that's being engulfed by fire, as we saw also with the Thomas Fire in Southern California. So my department is working on a couple of ideas that came out of this experience so we can be even more prepared next time.
We're doing a profile on one of the Teachers of the Year who's also nominated for the National Award, Brian McDaniel from Desert Hot Springs. What made him stand out when you're picking out the Teachers of the Year?
Well, he himself overcame poverty and overcame a number of adversities in his life, and believed in himself and had adults believe in him, and he wants to carry that forward. He wants to pay that forward in terms of helping other students, mentoring students, helping them gain self-confidence, set high goals. And so I like that optimism, and that part of him is so dedicated to helping other students overcome the challenges he faced.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about after-school programs. And free after-school programs are especially important to California's low-income districts, like Robla, for example, which you visited here in Sacramento. Can you tell me a little bit about, for example, that program and what kind of benefits they provide to families?
They have such stimulating, fun activities for the kids. It's just fabulous. It's fun, it's contagious, it's enjoyable. So I went out and did calisthenics with the students and ran some laps with the students. Between their laughter and just having fun and conversing with other students. Many times the students who don't have these programs, they're isolated in their homes, they don't have social interaction, they actually lose ground in the academic progress they made during the regular school year because they don't have stimulating activities. I vigorously opposed President Trump's proposal to eliminate the federal help for after-school programs, which would have meant $137 million cut to the programs in California, leaving hundreds and hundreds of students without the kind of stimulating programs we just described.
And what is the current status on federal funding?
Current status is Congress stood up strong and rejected that proposal by the president. So those programs are being protected. They are not partisan programs. They're supported by Republicans and Democrats, and Congress, I thank you.
Can you tell me a little bit about what would happen to these students if these after-school programs were cut or didn't exist?
Well, we know that crime triples every day between 3 and 6 o'clock in neighborhoods that don't have these after-school programs. So students can either be isolated in their home, which is not good either, or they could be out unsupervised, get in trouble, be recruited by gangs, get involved with drugs. There's a whole host of negative consequences if these programs don't exist. The positives are the graduation rate goes up. Students feel better about their school in general. Students want to come to school at the beginning of the day because they want to also participate in the after-school programs. So it's a positive win-win. It's helping increase our graduation rate to a record all-time high in California, and we want to see these programs expand.
Let's talk a little bit about foster youth. We'll be doing a story soon about the effort to help foster youth between about the ages of 18 and 21 get into more higher education opportunities, community college, four-year colleges. Is there kind of any effort on the state's part to encourage more foster youth to reach higher education?
We certainly are doing that here at the California Department of Education, and we're working closely with the John Burton Foundation and former Senator Leader John Burton to reach out to the foster youth in the state and have a large number, 50 to 60% of them, fill out the financial forms necessary to get financial aid. because for many of them, that's the barrier for them going on to getting higher education and getting a good solid foundation through college and university work. So we are in the midst of a campaign to reach out to foster youth and those that are providing care for them and get them to sign up and get the financial forms filled out so they can become eligible for the financial aid that may make it possible for them to go to college.
And what's the significance of that to those foster youth? I mean, how much does that impact them and their lives?
Well, I think all youth have aspirations, they have dreams. They want to contribute in the world, they want to succeed in the world, and foster kids have had rough starts to life. In most cases, they've been bounced around from different foster homes and different care settings, and I think often feel neglected or not fitting in. And the chance to go to college, the idea of being able to fulfill a dream of going to college, motivates those students to stay in school and not drop out, but to become high school graduates and then go on.
Another story that we did was in San Diego. They have a large number of refugees, immigrant students there. And there's a real concentrated effort to help them access services so that they can succeed in the education system. Should more schools be doing this? Should there be a more concentrated effort to help that particular group, given the large number of immigrants and refugees in the state?
I think that's being done, but it can be done more and more deeply. What we are working on too is making sure that families know that the schools are safe havens. And I initiated a program statewide to ask school boards to make sure that they declared their schools safe havens, where the personal information of students would not be shared with ICE, that we would not become an arm of ICE, that our schools welcome both the students of whatever their diplomatic status and their parents, who are so important in the child's success.
Just to wrap up, were there any additional thoughts that you had in terms of education this year in 2018 that you wanted to share with us or our viewers?
We're undergoing major reform to have a better, smarter education system that helps all students succeed. And we see that whether it's the dashboard, which is a new way to get more feedback on how a school is doing, not just looking at math scores and English language arts test scores, those are important, but looking at absenteeism, looking at graduation rates, looking at career readiness, looking at school climate. These are very important initiatives. We're, again, getting students to think critically, put evidence behind their arguments. That's part of this new style. It's not the teacher just lecturing all period long. It's more engaging, students learning to work in teams. So we believe that these combination of initiatives are really going to prepare our youth better for the jobs that are being generated in our economy. And we have great businesses in California, great corporations. They would like to hire California graduates from our schools to fill the engineering and technical field jobs that are out there.
Well, perfect. I appreciate you taking the time to speak with us.
Always good, Christina.
Thank you, sir.